Welcome to Strange but True. Take a breath, slow down, and listen carefully. Some stories are documented, some are debated, some refuse to be explained. We tell you the stories, you decide what's true. Now, let's begin our journey. Waiting feels natural. It does not feel optional. People line up, they take tickets, they sit in chairs, they stand behind ropes, they stare at screens. They rarely ask why. This behavior appears everywhere. Hospitals, courts, airports, banks, schools, government offices. The pattern is consistent. It is documented. Waiting did not begin as patience. It began as control. In early administrative systems, people were gathered in place to be counted, not to be served. Censuses required presence. Tax collection required queues. Military conscription required assembly. The wait was not a side effect. It was the system. This structure appears in early bureaucratic records. Medieval courts required petitioners to stand for hours before being heard. Not because hearings took that long, because delay filtered access. Only those who waited were allowed to speak. This pattern is preserved in court procedure manuals. Industrial factories standardized waiting. Workers clocked in. They stood at gates. They queued for wages. Time was converted into shifts. Waiting became a unit of labor. This transition appears in factory management records. Railways followed. Tickets were sold in lines. Platforms were controlled by gates. Schedules created artificial pauses. People arrived early to avoid missing trains. They waited even when nothing moved. This structure is documented in early transit system plans. Hospitals followed. Patients waited before diagnosis, before treatment, before discharge, not because doctors were always busy, because triage systems ranked urgency. Waiting became a sorting tool. This structure appears in hospital operations manuals. Schools followed. Students waited for bells, for turns to speak, for permission to leave. Time was segmented into periods. Movement required authorization. This pattern is preserved in early educational design standards. Courts followed again. Defendants waited in holding rooms. Witnesses waited in corridors. Jurors waited in assembly halls. Justice was not only decided, it was staged. This staging is documented in judicial architecture guides. Airports followed. Passengers waited to check in, to clear security, to board, to land, to collect luggage. Movement was broken into checkpoints. Each checkpoint required compliance. This structure appears in aviation security protocols. Government offices followed. Forms were processed in batches. People waited for stamps, for signatures, for approvals. Delay signaled legitimacy. This pattern is preserved in civil service procedure records. Even entertainment followed. Lines formed outside theaters, outside concerts, outside product launches. Scarcity was simulated. Waiting increased perceived value. This effect is documented in consumer behavior research. Over time, waiting changed meaning. It stopped feeling like delay. It started feeling like requirement. People stopped asking if they needed to wait. They asked how long. The question shifted. The system succeeded. Architectural design reinforced it. Ropes, barriers, benches, number dispensers, digital boards. These objects do not explain themselves. They instruct behavior silently. This placement is documented in queue management standards. Waiting rooms were named. Not holding rooms, not delay zones. Waiting rooms. The language normalized it. This change is recorded in institutional design archives. Music was added. Screens were added. Magazines were added. Comfort was layered onto delay. The weight was not removed. It was softened. This evolution appears in service environment research. Today, most people wait even when alternatives exist. They stand in lines instead of using empty counters. They sit quietly even when nothing is happening. They apologize for skipping ahead. They enforce the wait on others. No one assigns them. They self-police it. This behavior is documented in crowd psychology studies. Waiting feels mandatory because it became infrastructure. It is built into buildings, into schedules, into software, into language, into expectations. It is not a pause. It is a rule. No one announced it. No one voted for it. It simply stabilized. The record does not explain why people accept it so easily. It only shows that they do. History has a way of hiding the truth inside what it chooses not to explain. Inside tales, inside myths, inside legends, inside things that feel just a little off. If this story held your attention, subscribe to Strange But True, because sometimes what sounds unbelievable is exactly where the truth hides.